if you're a patient, and you gotta have a good contractor, you gotta have a solid budget, you gotta stay on timelines. And on this project, we'll end up making like close to $55,000–$60,000 on this project. Okay, but there's a lot of variables that go into it. So today's theme is to property locators. Locate the right property, do the right renovations to it. You'll always sell it. Okay. So when I'm doing a project like that, I'm always keeping the buyer, the end buyer in mind. What kind of buyer is going to buy this? Is it going to be a single female, a husband and wife, kids? You got to keep all that in mind because you want to do the right type of renovations for the right house. Okay. So again, this is just an example of how you can actually make money short term. And the goal here is, we all want to make money, right? But if you get into the wrong deal, you could lose a lot of money real fast too, right? So a lot of these homes, you got to keep in mind, they're like built in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and 70s, and we all know that the earth shifts, earth moves, the dirt moves. So a lot of times, especially if they're on a hill, you're going to have some foundation issues, right? Because the rain and stuff like that, dirt washes away. So you got to look at the actual foundation of these homes. Be very careful with it. I had a buddy of mine that bought a house, okay, got a great deal on it, but the foundation was cracked. He ended up spending almost $25,000 just getting the foundation fixed. Okay, because then when the inspector came out there and the inspector said, look, the foundation is damaged, then that goes in the record. I mean, you being a real estate agent, and you know that, right? So then you're not going to be able to sell the house until you get that fixed. So, I mean, right there was his profit. So, locating the property is one thing, but knowing how to do the actual repairs and do the assessment and doing the walkthrough, determine what kind of money you're going to put into it is a totally separate thing, right? So, I mean, nobody wants to lose money here. So the goal is for me to teach you and show you, what are the things you want to look for so you don't make those kind of mistakes. All right? I'm sorry, your name?
Jason.
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 Okay, you want to just take a minute to introduce yourself real quick?
Okay, my name is Jason Schwartz. I'm here to learn more about Brickfront properties and I guess how to be a property locator. What things to look for, what things not to look for, what things are important in terms of locating the right property and get the best return on your investment.
Now, do you have background experience in real estate now? Have you done anything?
Well, no, I've been doing a lot of research now.
Okay.
I've just been researching, and I came across this opportunity, so I figured this was a good place to start.
All right, good. Okay. All right, so now we'll talk about, any questions so far? No? All right, so we'll talk about long term. Now, this is the long term hold. This is basically where you're buying a property. It could be apartment buildings, it could be shopping centers, it could be where you're just buying something and you're going to hold it for 2 or 3, 4 years. But again, the main ingredient, again, is locating the right property in the right neighborhood. Okay, so you want to, when you buy these type of properties, you want to look at, is the neighborhood good? Is there things happening in the neighborhood? Is the city or the county looking to bring in a new metro station, new shopping center? Is there new things in the horizon that's going to allow the neighborhood to appreciate in value? Okay, so all these things you always want to think about. When you think about long term, you want to think about what's going to happen 2, 3, 4 years from now. So, for example, I bought a property right here in the Central Avenue off of Ritchie Road, okay, over there by Yolanda Avenue. I knew 3 years ago that they were going to bring that Walmart down here. You know what I'm talking about, on Ritchie Road? Where the Walmart is with the Chick-fil-A when you're going down 495. Okay, so I knew that back then. So I ended up buying this property, but again, it's a long-term hold, right? So, I mean, they were supposed to have started the shopping center 2, 3 years ago, but they got behind, whatever, but they're doing it now. Okay? So when you look at it, you want to look at the neighborhood, you want to look at what is the city or the county doing, what's happening in the neighborhood. You want to look at what your investment strategy is. I mean, what do you want to do with this property? You just want cash flow? You're going to flip it? What do you want to do to it? All those things have to be analyzed. So we have different spreadsheets and tools that you can use to be able to plug in your numbers and determine, are you happy with the $200 return every month, or do you want a $400 return every month? Okay, it goes back to locating the right property, at buying it at the right price. So when you do a long-term hold, you want to make sure that you don't buy something where it needs $50,000, $60,000 of renovations. You want to be able to get in there, do a new carpet, do new paint, because the tenants are going to beat it up. Believe me. I mean, especially if you get a Section 8 tenant in there, they're going to get in there and they're going to beat it up. So you want to do enough to the property where it's presentable and you can actually get $300, $400, $500 cash flow out of there. Okay? So this is a great way to build long-term wealth. I got about 30 rental properties now in DC, Maryland, Virginia. But it took me time to build up to that. You know, and believe me, I've made a lot of mistakes with a lot of tenants. You know, one of the tenants, matter of fact, now is living in one of my condos. She got cancer. Well, I don't want to put her out. You know, she's got no family in the area. She called me around Thanksgiving time and told me what's happening. She hasn't paid me rent for 6 months. Okay? So I'm not saying you should do that, but it's a give and take, right? So with her, you know, she's been a great tenant. So I'm allowing her to live there, but you know, but now the back rent is up to like $8,000. So eventually you gotta say, look, you gotta go, or you gotta find ways to do it. So with her, we try to see if she could try to qualify for Section 8. But when we call PG County, there's a 5-year wait for Section 8 new applicants. So that's not going to be an option. Okay. So we try to work with your tenants and stuff like that. That means the key is with long-term hold, keeping the tenant in the property as long as possible. Because every time a tenant leaves, it's going to cost you an average about $2,500 to replace that tenant. Okay. Because you have to get in there, you have to do something. You have to get the carpets clean, you have to paint, you have to advertise, you have to screen the new tenants. You may end up paying mortgage payment out of your pocket for 1 or 2 months until you find the new tenant. So try to keep the tenant in the property as long as possible. Even if you got to go in there, sometimes I'll say, hey, listen, I'm going to come in there. If the tenant says I'm leaving, I'm like, well, what if I come in there and give you a new refrigerator? What if I come in there and give you a new stove? What if I come in there and paint the house? Right? So it may cost me $1,000, but that's a lot cheaper than having them move out and then bring my guys back in there and clean it up. So you try to work with the tenants, right? Try to give them some incentive to stay there. Okay. All right. So how to actually find these properties? Okay, and that's like the nugget, right? So I'm gonna pass you some information here. Here are some free, you know, I mean, I like free. I'm sure everybody likes free. Okay, some different free websites and tools that you actually go to. And keep in mind, the more work you put into this, the more success you're gonna have, right? So it's the only thing I can do is give you the information, give you the tools, give you the resources, but you guys actually got to get out there and make it happen, right? So with this particular here, this is a different ways of actually finding, like the motivated sellers and how to reach out to them, how to get their name, how to get their phone number, how to get their address, how to track them down. Okay, so a lot of these websites are free. There are some websites on here that actually charge, but I mean, if you put some sweat into this thing, you shouldn't have to pay for anything, okay? So if you just take a minute to go over that. I thought I had more of these.